The New York Times urging President Biden to give up his re-election dreams, claiming Democrats need to nominate a different candidate in 2024.
But the choice may not be as simple as selecting Vice President Kamala Harris to run.
She should have been positioned powerfully and able to actually be a person that could lead, and she's been in the back.
The primary is wide open, and it's not just Kamala Harris's to take.
Joe Concha joins us now. Joe, happy Monday. Your reaction to this latest iteration of jumping ship, which we seem to talk to you about every 2 days or so.
It feels that way. Here I thought that the Inflation Reduction Act was going to be the turning point for this presidency, where everything changes and turns around. Apparently that's not the case, because as we saw on the Sunday shows yesterday, it's speculation about an election that isn't occurring for another, if I'm doing the math right, 28 months, right? I can never remember an administration that's not even in office for 19 months having this much speculation around whether a president is running for re-election, on how his vice president is profoundly not prepared for the job, and the bench ain't good. Let's face it. Pete Buttigieg residing over a supply chain crisis that continues, and the airline industry is as in worse shape as we've ever seen under this transportation secretary. Gavin Newsom's slogan will be, "I'll do to America what I did to California." Not good. Then you have Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke, the not so greatest hits from the 2020 campaign. So that's where the Democratic Party is at this point. They don't want this current president to run. 75% of Democrats do not, according to a CNN poll. But the problem is the backfill just ain't there. And again, the fact that we're even talking about this just shows you how much disarray the Democratic Party is going into these midterms, guys.
Well, and you mentioned the CNN poll. Let's talk about CNN. Even CNN's Brian Stelter is changing his tune on this Hunter Biden story. Take a listen.
Okay. What about Hunter? Hunter under federal investigation. Charges could be coming at any time. This is not just a right-wing media story. This is a real problem for the Bidens. Could he decide not to run for re-election given his son?
Oh, boy. So what do you I don't even know what to say to that. Joe, I'm going to hand it to you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Ashley, look, here's the thing. The same CNN media correspondent said in 2020 about this network that Fox continues to cover this story, and they ruin their credibility by doing so, this story being the Hunter Biden story. He said that the country had moved on in December of 2020 from the Hunter Biden story. He said about Fox also that they want you to stay mad and stay tuned, called it a manufactured scandal to spark whataboutism. All right. So those are the words of Brian Stelter back in 2020 when it mattered, when this story was broke by the New York Post. And now he's pretending like he's actually never said these things and thinks that it could be a big problem for the president in 2024. Yeah. Welcome to the party, pal. We've been talking about this for some time, and don't pretend like you tried to dismiss this story as a manufactured scandal. And now, because you have a new boss, I guess he's trying to keep his job by actually doing his job by talking about this story the way it should be talked about, which is, yes, it is real. There is a federal investigation going on, and Hunter Biden could be a real liability for the president, as we've talked about, Ashley and Todd.
You went Die Hard. I'm going to go Seinfeld. This is so bizarro world. They should be eating and doing that segment at Reggie's. You understand what I mean by that. Last hour, Kentucky Congressman James Comer calling out the Intel community for ignoring Hunter's business dealings in 2020. Listen.
This guy was a crook. He's been influence peddling all over the world, but yet the intelligence community, right before an election, issues a statement saying, no, this is Russian disinformation. This is another bad hit, along with things like the Russian dossier, the Steele dossier, another bad hit on our intelligence community, and we need to make some changes.
Joe, presumably Hunter Biden is not going to get a contributor position at CNN, MSNBC, although, don't put it past them. But there are a number of contributors who are members of that intel community, of which James Comer says they're going to go after. Do those people remain contributors, or, per Brian Stelter, is this a big deal now?
Well, I have a whole chapter about this in my book that's coming out next month about all these intelligence officers, and not just like low ranking. We're talking about the guy who ran the CIA, or the guy who ran DNI, or the guy who ran the FBI, that all after they left their respective positions and went into the private sector, whether we're talking about James Comey or John Brennan or Clapper, all of them then went to CNN or MSNBC or wrote books and got documentaries, like in the case of Comey, showing just how biased they were, just how utterly you can't tell the difference between, say, I don't know, Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes or Brian Stelter and John Brennan and James Comey when they're on the air talking about the Trump presidency. And that's the thing that should be disturbing to everybody, that these intelligence chiefs who are supposed to be completely unbiased in their jobs and apolitical showed to be anything but. And then when they had to make money, really poured it on. And if that's the people running our intelligence agencies, then we got big problems if they're looking at their positions as something they can weaponize against a certain party or a certain presidential candidate. Ashley, by the way, you love heat and humidity? Wow.
I'm a
I
weirdo.
don't know. I can't handle it.
I'm sorry. I'm so weird, I'll admit it. But I do want to get your take on this. The LA Times, the Los Angeles Times is urging Joe Biden to use executive powers to declare a national climate emergency. Here's the quote from the piece. It's time Biden adopted an all-hands-on-deck approach to this spiraling catastrophe. There's little chance that we're going to look back decades from now and say the president did too much. This comes after they passed billions of dollars in that Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Until Russia or India or China particularly does their part to fight climate change, then whatever we do on some sort of national level, it'll have a negligible impact. So we could spend our billions and billions, but the world needs to come together to address this problem. And until they do, I don't think very much is going to change.
It's one world. Ashley wants it hot, so there's no climate emergency for Strohmeyer.
That's
Joe Concha,
true.
thank you very much. Have a great Monday.